The horse racing champion coach suddenly realized my 6-year-old daughter probably has strong racing genes, so he decided immediately let this kid who has never ridden a horse sit on a horse, and what my daughter did next was it also met all of his father's expectations. I saw him sitting firmly moving forward with the hymn to the sunshine between the intersection of heaven and earth is the word beautiful. Under the watchful eye of my father from the endless waves of golden wheat, he ran to the old dead vine tree under the setting sun. Then he rode a horse again to pave the unknown road ahead. This extraordinary talent made my father very satisfied, so the next day he took his daughter to watch the horse racing again. Learn from playing field experience. This qualifying round 5 of the 7 contestants are the father's children among them. The eldest sister of the girl also had an absolute advantage, got first place, but his father insisted on letting his brother, who ran second, go to the Melbourne Cup just because of this nationally watched event. There is no precedent for women participating in more than 100 years, however, in the official competition a month later, but under the enthusiastic gaze of the whole class, my brother dropped straight from first place to last place. This tragic ending disappointed little daughter Michelle, but at the same time, she became more determined to become a female knight. A blockbuster hard time flies by like a white horse passed by in a flash. Michelle 10 years later already have the physical strength and age to compete, grow with it and his dreams and ambitions, so whenever the students go to class he would go to the toilet to listen to the game results, but that figure that is often absent, but the teacher gradually discovered until this day talking to himself in the toilet made him no longer hesitate.
What the dickens is going on here? I just wanted to see how Bridget was going at Sandown. 5 paying girls I've lost, and all for what? So they could sit on the back of a quadruped for $5 an hour.
In the footsteps of her sister study while completing her studies is the next path she should take, however, this self-righteous earnestness, but it makes Michelle's dream even more unstoppable. For this reason, he often skipped classes and trained hard. Blatantly, the helpless teacher had no choice but to find his father and complain. But my father did not hesitate to smooth things over for my daughter. He claimed that his daughter's stomach irritation was not good, so missing 4 or 5 classes a day can be excused, and also proposed in person need to apply for suspension of study for Michelle. Immediately afterwards, the father took his daughter to the racecourse, teach him the most practical game skills. At this moment the grass outside the stadium is very soft, but the grass in the inner passage is harder, and stiffer grass means less resistance, so when you start anyway we must occupy the inner channel with less resistance as soon as possible. A horse's lungs determine its speed, the heart determines endurance. Every horse's sprint moment and fatigue moment different, so you need to understand the attributes of horses and seize the opportunity to sprint. The game is not just a contest of speed and strength, it's a competition between mentality and endurance. Not until the last minute, never think that the outcome is determined. Under father's guidance Michelle started training harder again. The gentle breeze blows across the endless grassland, a little bit of the fatigue from the journey has faded away. Shallow sunlight shines through the deserted track. Liang, who has faded away a bit of the season after day of precipitation. Michelle finally ushered in the first game in life, but just arrived at the racecourse he deeply felt how difficult it was for Master Mickey too. Male knights have gorgeous dressing rooms and left to him, but there is only a small temporary utility room. But these naked knights, it doesn't stop him from competing. He is bound to win a hearty victorito and due respect, but the cruel reality is often unsatisfactory. The game has just begun. He fell to the last position, although he always remembers the skills taught by his father, even though his father was also cheering for him in the wind, although he wants to try his best to seize the opportunity to sprint, but the lack of experience and the gap in strength, but he still failed completely. After the game, Michel admitted his mistake. He said he saw an opportunity to overtake in the crowd but couldn't grasp it, but his father has lost confidence in him. Maybe I just don't have it in you. Not only that, my father also plans to call the school, let Michelle, who dropped out of school, go back and study for another year, but fortunately in the end he gave up this irrational idea because he knows very well this it's like burying my daughter's dream with my own hands. Not to mention Michelle is the child he feels he owes the most to. After all, in this country consisting of 10 children in a family with one father only, the youngest son Steve and the youngest daughter Michelle not being favored by my mother too early. Poor Steve having had Down syndrome since birth, so the youngest sister Michelle, naturally he became an older brother, the object of wanton bullying by the sisters. Almost everyone all racked their brains, give him the dirty work on your hands, until this day finally unable to bear the oppression, he broke out completely, take the shovel and go out immediately, walk towards the cemetery not far away. I plan to dig up my mother from the grave and seek justice. And this is the source of my father's guilt. He couldn't give Michelle the maternal love she deserved. I don't know how to manage a chaotic family environment. All he can do only full support for Michelle to pursue yearning and love. After all, this is the only way, only then can he make up for the debt and uneasiness in his heart. It is precisely because of this only a father would take back his daughter and give up horse racing. The decision to go back to school instead, work hard to develop his ability to pursue his dreams. Finally one day at a race at Paranath Racecourse, Michelle, whose character and strength have been precipitated, changed the past rush and panic, taking the lead very calmly, occupied in fighting and grasp the appropriate sprint timing to stand out among the male knights, win the crown and this hearty victory. This was the beginning of his professional horse racing career, but just when he was immersed in the joy of his first victory, but my aunt heard that the eldest sister came from the horseback. Sad news of unfortunate demise. Bridget, she is the second professional female knight in Australian history. He overcame traditional prejudices, but now it has unexpectedly withered. Everyone at the funeral looked sad. In a small coffin contains countless damp and faded memories that will be their future day after day, years of misfortune. Death of eldest daughter, it became an eternal scar on my father's heart. It also became the source of his resistance to his daughter continuing to compete. To prevent another tragedy from happening again, he took it upon himself to ignore Michelle for 2 years. During this time he can only gallop alone on the deserted track, running towards the endless and far off front. Finally one day he's had enough of this cage-like restraint and expressed his desire to participate in the competition, but my father said, "You are not ready yet, still need to be patient and settle down."
I've been patient for 2 years.
You have a fine career in the country.
I don't want a fine career in the bloody country. I want to ride Group 1s. I want to be the best.
No.
Father turned and left. Don't want to talk anymore. Michelle looked at her father's retreating back. This time he doesn't want to give in. Don't want to compromise anymore. Hear this, my father suddenly realized the little girl who needed love the most. Now it has grown a pair of strong wings. Even if I don't want to let go anymore, she will eventually fly to the sky outside as expected. Michelle was so angry that she immediately packed her bags. Then get in his red car. The baby who plans to stay away from his father's love, and all this the father at the window also saw it. He doesn't want to lose his second daughter again. At the same time I don't want to lose my original intention of supporting my daughter to pursue her dreams. This seemingly endless imprisonment, in fact, after he weighed the pros and cons, a helpless act, but the daughter failed to understand her old father's good intentions. He is new here. I just feel that the racecourse outside is an ideal holy place. Even in the air, all with a hint of the sweetness of a dream come true. Don't know this racecourse has always been a place for men's carnivals. There is no room left for women to gallop. When she opened the door hopefully and introduced herself, respond to her, but there was only silence and disdain from the horse trainers. But she was not discouraged. Is to close the door, wait quietly outside the house. I pray that a discerning horse trainer can hire me. But when the morning light comes in and outriders start training, but still no one takes him seriously. Finally, a horse trainer talked to me. He talks about the content is only about the recent situation of my father. Rather than understanding his strength, unexpected hit will let his high mood gradually go downhill, but after a sleep night falls he regained the courage to be rejected. At this moment he was standing outside the door waiting hard. Suddenly I discovered that a male rider also came to apply for a job. What is different from myself is he received a warm welcome from the horse trainers in the house. Michelle through the window watching their windy hair intently, inexplicable loss and powerlessness together standing silently. You can see everything at a glance. The next day, still unwilling to give up, he went straight to the back coat. Keep recommend.
You don't even need to pay me.
You as good as your sisters?
Better. So will you give me a ride or not?
That depends on whether you give me one.
Was speechless after hearing this. Continuous discrimination and prejudice gradually made him realize you should take the initiative to create opportunities for performance rather than praying. So he lied about helping other riders walk their horses. Come and ride on horseback, rush into the racecourse, show off your skills on this open track. I thought this would win the favor of horse trainers, but they were only paying attention to his figure eight. The same time father on the other side, it seems that he has foreseen his daughter's predicament a long time ago. Although she was very dissatisfied with Michelle's running away from home, but I also hope that my daughter will be outside able to receive care similar to a kind of maternal love. So she begged her eldest sister to come forward, act as Michelle's agent, and she also happily I took over this job of entrusting family affection to me. But since I have no experience in this, so this aunt's business ability is very lacking. So much so that there is no racecourse willing to provide a gay Michelle on the sidelines of opportunity. It was immediately obvious that this was a special arrangement by my father.
Dad asked you to be my manager, didn't he?
No, I offered. Okay, yes he did, but I'm not supposed to tell you. And yes, I have no experience, and clearly I'm no good at it.
However, the words just fell. I called the horse farm I contacted earlier, expressed willingness to provide Michelle with an opportunity to show off your skills because the racecourse owner and his father had been close friends for many years. Just like that, he finally arrived. First race of professional horse racing career. This hard-won opportunity made him extremely excited. Precipitation over the years finally got the chance to show it at this moment, and he also has outstanding strength. Won the Kenton Friendly Match Championship in one fell swoop. Since then, competition invitations from all directions emerging like mushrooms after rain. Naturally, Michelle will not let go of these good opportunities. For this reason, he gets up at 3 o'clock every day. Then we traveled more than 40 kilometers to compete in another city. The footprints of the competition even spread all over South Australia, and the sweetness comes after all the hardships. Nature will come with hard work. After hundreds of games, he finally made the Division 1 roster. Subsequently, he immediately conveyed the good news to his father, but my father used his busy work as an excuse, rejected his call. He thought his father didn't care about his grades. Little did he know that his father was behind the scenes, never failed in any of his games, and this may be the special thing about father's love. He is not good at words, but he is meticulous behind the scenes. Soon after, Michelle finally arrived. First match in the second division, he was surprised to find brother Steve actually came to cheer him on in person before the game starts. Michelle still follows her father's teaching, survey the site in advance. After discovering that the grass is extremely wet today, he told himself that he needed to slow down when running around corners. At the same time, brother Steve on the other side but fell in love at first sight with a horse at the racecourse. He is very careful, suit the horse's irritable mood, and this scene was also seen by the racecourse owner behind him. Steve says horse racing is not a cold tool, they also have their own emotions, so we cannot simply treat them equally. This coincides with the view of the racecourse owner. This is where the gears of fate begin to turn. The game will officially start soon. In order to seize the inner channel, all contestants refuse to give in to each other in the face of competition from others. Michelle is not to be outdone. He tightly occupies the inner passage until the game is won. After the race, the second place player accused him of refusing to give way. It's putting the entire game at risk. Faced with this unreasonable prejudice, he is no longer silent but a strong counter.
You're the one in the wrong. You moved when there was no room.
What do you want me to do? Roll out the red carpet for you?
Just remind me who came first and who came second.
Perhaps this is the confidence brought by hard power and the way back a high-end racecourse agent took the initiative to find Michelle, invite him to ride their best racehorse, go to a Grand Prix in Sando, provided that he must lose weight to 50 kilograms in 3 days, even if my aunt says it's completely impossible, but Michelle agreed without hesitation. Immediately afterwards he started a 3-day weight loss training. In these 3 days he strictly implements the strict plan recipes for every meal, even reduced to a simple serving of fruit. There is only one simple obsession in his heart, that is don't he miss any opportunity to climb up due to excessive investment in weight loss. As a result, he almost missed his third sister's wedding, although I was lucky to catch up in the end, but that pair of sweatpants that I haven't had time to change out yet, but let him make a fool of himself. Wedding dinner, the father first expressed his blessings to the newlyweds. Then he announced the good news to his relatives and friends, that is one of his children who through his own efforts got full rewards. Michelle thought her father was talking about herself, but what my father said, but it's his brother Steve, who has Down syndrome because he was born with a deformity, got a full-time job as a groom last week, and those who appreciate him, it was the racecourse owner who had the same idea as him before. Although a little unexpected, but Michelle is also really happy. After all, Steve is his best brother. After dinner the second brother handed me a piece of cake because he found that his sister hadn't eaten anything all night. I heard Michelle say he wanted to lose 3 kilograms in 3 days. My brother smiled and said, "Are you crazy?" Little did he know that my sister also had her own reasons for persistence. She said she had ridden all the rental hunting horses in the past year. It's not easy to get a chance to touch a high-quality horse, and she also wants to prove to the world Lady Knights take first place in Division 1 tournament, not a fluke. Not only that, he also hopes to gain his father's approval because he feels my father always turns a blind eye to his own achievements. As everyone knows, the father just doesn't want to lose his second daughter again compared to the all-powerful ones on the playing field. He also hopes that his daughter can be safe and sound for the last night, lose the last half kilogram remaining. Michelle wrapped her whole body in plastic wrap. Then he put on a heavy coat, then came to the car, turned on the heat and air conditioner to the maximum. Beads of sweat quickly appeared on his face, but he is not satisfied with this. 2 hours before measuring weight he locked himself in the sauna again for training, everything just to live up to the noble self I once had. Fortunately, hard work pays off. He finally stood on the scale. I got my wish and reduced it to 50 kilograms. And he and thus got another chance to prove myself. After the game starts he took the lead and galloped forward, never give others a chance to transcend, but just as he was riding Cummings to stay ahead, crossing the finish line, the horse suddenly fell to the ground in the horse position, and Michelle was also kicked out severely. The old father in front of the TV watched this painful scene. My right hand can't stop shaking. In the end, the horse was fine. He quickly stood up, but Michelle fell to the ground, unable to move, and now a bitter tear accumulated in the corner of his eye, flow slowly in time units of seconds. That tear trophy was gathering all the pain and unwillingness in his heart. Soon Michelle was sent to the hospital for rescue. All the brothers and sisters in the family came after hearing the news. The doctor said he is now out of danger but still in coma. Scan display he suffered massive bleeding on the brain and there are signs of damage to the right prefrontal lobe of the brain. Looking at my unconscious daughter, the father took away his wife's necklace hung on his hand. Wife of hope in heaven can protect children who are in danger. After walking out of the ward he confided his true feelings to his priest friend. If only I could have been more selfish and stubborn back then, just keep your daughter by your side. But now all he can do, I can only pray devoutly with the priest. After many days and nights of praying and after waiting, after Michelle finally emerged from her coma, ninth brother Steve combed his hair. Sister Dan stroked his right hand. The fourth brother was reporting the latest game results for home. Unconsciously those older brothers and sisters who used to bully him the most, now they have become his most considerate relatives. But Michelle's situation is still not optimistic. When the doctor asked him, "Can you still spell your own name?" But he hesitated. "It seems that I have forgotten everything. I can't even tell how many fingers the doctor raised." So the doctor concluded that he had cerebral palsy. However, at this time my father, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke.
Who won the 1983 Melbourne Cup?
Kiwi.
Jockey?
Jimmy Pumper Cassidy.
1930.
Far lap.
Colours?
Crimson, black, white sleeves.
You've got to ask some questions that you might at least be interested in.
Someone really forgot their name. But I still remember the deepest love in my heart. Then the father put his hand on his daughter's shoulder and he finally felt the long-lost father's love to take better care of Michelle. His father took him home to recuperate. Banner in front of home there is a sign hanging on the wall that welcomes the stinky girl to come home because he still can't take care of himself completely. The doctor formulated a rehabilitation plan specifically for him and told him to avoid all dangers, prevent further brain damage, but he just cares, when will I be able to ride a horse again? Hear this, the doctor couldn't help but laugh out loud, but my father stopped him in time with a look because he knows very well returning to the racecourse is the root of my daughter's recovery. This day one of his father's horses came to stick with Michelle. Looking at this partner who grew up with me, he couldn't help but burst into tears. Then he decided to sit on the horse, feel the gentle breeze, and all this was seen by my fat Herat family meeting. Everyone disagrees with Michelle returning to the game because the risk factor is extremely high. Wo's gonna look after you if you're permanently brain damaged? Paralyzed, dead, can't. Brother Steve was the first to stand up and support him at this time. My father finally gave up the obsession of keeping my daughter by.
If little girl's made up her mind, there's no one here or in heaven that can make her change it.
This time he finally got positive support from his veteran. The following years he gradually recovered and played 3,200 games, won 361 times among them. He fell off his horse 7 times, 16 fractures, but these injuries, it does not make him fear the road ahead. That day Michelle sent her brother Steve to work. He has Down syndrome now. He is the top professional groom in the country. Just as Michelle was about to leave but was attracted by a restless horse, he immediately recognized that this was the horse of his dreams. So walked forward and tried to calm him down. At this time the owner of the racecourse came up and said the horse was called Prince of Penzance. He has suffered more injuries than you. It's a pity that you have retired now, otherwise you can give him a ride. But Michelle said, I didn't retire. So he immediately came to the beach and rode on the prince. How much leisurely warmth does the temperature in the sun bring? How many heavy footprints have been deposited on the beach beside the mountains? Blue waves, how many unbearable memories have faded away in the cool time? The sea breeze blows away the bleak past, but it also brought about the constant self-improvement that belongs to the king. Now suffering from injuries, one person and one horse started running again after returning with a courage to face the future. Michelle immediately asked to ride the prince to the competition because this is the best horse experience in his career, but the racecourse owner refused to accept the wounded soldier. He persuaded you with earnest words. You once suffered a fractured skull, now I'm injured and it's not getting better. Your hands and legs are still scarred. Even today any part of you is not damaged. My ability to win. Come on. You can buck him with Stevie. In the days to come he and his brother guarded the Prince of Penzance together, just to welcome the day when he returns as king, and this little wish soon came true. After constant conditioning the prince's body has returned to its best condition, so the racecourse owner immediately decided let Michelle ride him to the race, and he lived up to his high expectations. One person and one horse who have a clear understanding of each other when the Melbourne Cup qualifies, it is bound to be with the joy of victory to wash away the darkness and waiting in the days of injury and illness. They are making great progress all the way. He even won an impressive record of 6 consecutive victories in one fell swoop. However, after the game ended that day Michelle was complained. A rider reported that he maliciously occupied the track, thus causing him to fall off his horse. Video display the rider who fell off his horse was to Michelle's right, but when he defended himself and transcended, there is quite a gap. Any knight worthy of the name, I won't miss this opportunity, but the association itself, there is an inherent prejudice against this female knight. What's more, the tone of his defense was aggressive. As a result, he was temporarily suspended for 20 games. However, the winning score is still recorded. This means Prince of Penzance is able to take part in the final showdown. The racecourse shareholders were extremely excited after learning the news. Because they don't care who rides their horses in the competition, only care the prince selected for the Melbourne Cup will be more valuable. The racecourse owner is also very helpless about this. After all, it's not you who makes the rules. And Michelle, I can only be forced to endure it, the powerlessness of passing by your dreams, but misfortunes never come singly. At this time, Michelle received news that her father was hospitalized. Turned out to be he suffered from heart disease and accidentally fell into a coma at home today. Fortunately, the family found out in time and saved a small life. The father, in the hospital bed, reveals his true feelings to his daughter. He hopes before he dies being able to see Michelle happy and stable, but Michelle said, I have found my right husband and the other party is still a prince here. This my father felt more and more something was wrong. At night, the brother and sister act like they were children sleeping in their own little beds. At this time, my brother asked slightly worriedly what would happen if my father left. How should I live my life then? After hearing this, Michelle said that she would always take care of her brother.
You're my best friend, and we're going to build a home, and I'll have a ton of horses. I'll train them up, and you'll be my #1 strapper.
What happened if you die?
This soul torture made Michelle fall into deep thought. I have been on the verge of death several times. What if one day I really fall to death like my eldest sister? Then who will take care of my brother's daily life? The next day, a phone call broke the tranquility of the early morning. It was the third sister who called from the hospital.
Michelle, he's gone.
Words, but like a bolt from the blue, he couldn't accept it. For a while, paralyzed to the ground, past memories all folded in tears of sadness. It turns out that when my sister said leaving, she meant leaving the hospital. In a false alarm, he sat in the corner and unloaded again, overcome the previous uneasiness. At the same time, the shareholders of the racecourse are discussing the best person to control the prince. The racecourse owner suggested giving Michelle a chance because he was the one who brought this handsome horse breaking into the Melbourne Monument. What's more, his suspension was unreasonable, reinstatement simply through arbitration. Shareholders unanimously disagree because they think a female knight, it's simply impossible to compete in such a top-level event, get top 10, and once there is no top 10 then their investment in the prince will be lost. At this time, Michelle rushed in directly fight for the knight who is a prince. He said that I participated in almost every game of prince. I gained his trust. He also got my approval, so I am the prince's best partner.
The Cup is a hard race. You need strength.
I'll tell you what you need. You think it's all about strength. It is about so much more than that. You need to understand your horse. You need the skill to read the field, and most of all, you need to be patient. And if you all think differently, then, well then, you're all a bunch of bloody idiots.
After he finished speaking, he turned around and left angrily. A few fools looked at each other after hearing this, until the owner of the horse factory suddenly said,
Do you want to know how to win the biggest race in the world? Like that.
In the end, all shareholders woke up unanimous decision to let Michelle ride Prince in competition. It also passed arbitration very smoothly. Helped him revoke his suspension. The day before the game, brother Steve as racecourse representative draw the starting fence for him, and he was lucky enough to draw number 1 fence. That means Michelle is more prone to infighting than others, but at night he couldn't sleep for a long time because of his nervousness. After all, there are too many expectations placed on tomorrow's game. Until brother Steve sent him a message to lull him to sleep. Only then did his nervousness ease. The next day the Grand Melbourne Cup race goes ahead as scheduled. Flowers covered the entire venue. Michelle's phone kept ringing as she walked down the aisle. The third sister reminded him to have breakfast. The second brother told him to seize the opportunity to sprint. Almost every family member sent their sincere blessings. Michelle's dream. It is also at this moment that the whole family's shared outlook is condensed. I in the store on the other side when I learned that Michelle's odds were 1:100. My aunt just took out 20 yuan and pledged it to him and his nun teacher in high school. Even more domineering, I drove the car straight into the store and he took out all his savings, 148 yuan and 50 cents, and bet him. As the horses participating in the competition were slowly moved into the venue, the host also started to introduce this time's contestants. Among them is Australia's star player Oliver, international horse racing superstar Frankie, and the most underappreciated young female knight Michelle Payne, and defending champion Kane. The remaining 22 players, including they are all experienced in many battles and dare to rob and fight. It will be extremely difficult for Michelle to win the game. Before the game he asked his brother if he thought he could win the game. His brother encouraged him and said the prince, who is carefully fed by himself, will definitely be the champion. At the same time, father of the family, I am also paying attention to my daughter's games as always. With all players entering the fence ready, this grand event attracts national attention. Finally, after an order was given, it officially started. Because the prince's reaction was a bit slow, Michelle was in a lagging position right from the start. This makes all shareholders feel uneasy, but Michelle gritted her teeth, driving the prince and starting to accelerate. Try your best to make up for the small mistakes at the beginning, and soon caught up to the middle position of the team. At this moment, shareholders have regained hope. His sisters, who were present at the scene, also cheered for him. After passing the second corner, almost all players started to speed up, but Michelle knows Prince's best time is yet to come. Until crossing the third corner, he just started to accelerate with all his strength. At this time, between the two riders in front of him, suddenly a huge gap appeared, and this was his opportunity to come back from behind and make a comeback. I saw him driving the Prince of Penzance into the sky like a sharp sword, pointing directly at the end point 300 meters away. Upon seeing this, the audience stood up and shouted for him. Stage from the shell pipe they'll make. Finally, the fiery dream shines through. With the dawn of victory, the notes of triumph are played for dreams to come true. Flowers and congratulations filled his return journey. Steadfast supporters got due satisfaction. This is a true story. Michelle Payne in the 2005 Melbourne Cup overwhelmed the crowd when the crown became the first in Melbourne Cup history. First female champion jockey in 155 years. After becoming famous, Hannah, has he forgotten his promise to his brother Steve? Then they bought a horse farm. His brother became his number 1 groom. It is worth mentioning that brother Steve, who has Down syndrome in the movie It, was also performed by myself. I often think, what kind of story is it? Can make people's eyes bright. What kind of movie is it? It can make people burst into tears. Real historical images until the end gave me the exact answer, compared to falling ups and downs of movie plot and beautiful shots that are pleasing to the eye. I think maybe these 6 words are adapted from a true story, more touching because he can make every dream traveler convinced on the other side of the world there was once such a person. He is just like us, carrying the dream of youth. Climb the waves all the way in places that are not favored by others. Although I was bruised during this period, although I also encountered parting on the road, although my family strongly opposed it, but he can still move forward. As always, use your own story, give us the light to move forward. Time is like poetry, conveying the joys and sorrows of the world. Life is like a song, singing high and low melodies. Maybe the future will be smooth sailing, it may be smooth, or the valley ahead may be rugged, it may be difficult to overcome, but in the end the dream may be easy, it's within easy reach. Or maybe the dream is far away, untouchable, but no matter what the result is, we who have traveled over mountains and ridges will one day raise a toast. Jinny Jing's first yearning. Jinny Jing's eyes filled with tears when he was young. I also pay tribute to the graceful time when I worked hard for my dreams without caring about myself. Whether it is spring or summer, flowers blooming or the fallen leaves of autumn and winter, it will be a good time for us to chase our ideals. I hope you and I will become stronger in the days when no one cares about us. Noble in mind, fearless in storms, survive loneliness. Poetry and distance.